studying theology, I had a teacher who said that about 90% of our theology we owe to our biography. And in those days I did not appreciate this saying by my teacher very much, because my intention was to find the real truth, to find objective truths, and to be prepared for my future congregation to present something that's not biased by my personal thinking or experiences. When I'm looking back today, I must say that he was very right, because in my personal way of life there was a friend of mine who was praying for me over the years, and even when I still was very much interested in other religions, not in Christianity. When I was about 16 or 17 years old, I had very important questions that I wanted to find answers for, like why am I here on earth, and what is it all good for, and are there any trustworthy answers that the religions can give? And while I was reading many books about also about Christianity, but mainly about Buddhism and Hinduism, also about Islam and Judaism, and I preferred Buddhism then, and started to meditate and have some yoga rituals. But when I stumbled into a very big personal crisis, all this meditating and the yoga did not help me at all. But my friend, who had been praying for me, he had given me some Bible verses over the years, and they were like small secret truths that were engraved in my mind and my heart, that I could return to and find consolation and even strength in them. And that was the time when I thought, okay, maybe I should give Jesus a try, and I started to pray. And God answered my prayers then and over the years in very amazing ways. And that's why I became a pastor, and I am still one today. When I was going to school, I thought I would become a famous physician and maybe an astronomer. But when I noticed that there are deeper truths and more important truths that only the religions can give, and when I experienced that there is someone, that there is a God who is alive and who answers prayers that I can come near to through Jesus Christ, everything was changed. And I decided to study theology, though I was quite still insecure and asking myself whether it is or was the right decision then. Well, we as a free church, we very much appreciate the idea of the common priesthood of every church member, in theory. But as there are different events in church, it depends on what's just on the schedule. If there is a service, I have a special part that is my role that I have to play, in brackets. And then I'm a member of the clergy, and I'm representing many things that, on the other hand, very many church members would have to do. But they trust me, and they say I have got the education for it, and so I'm representing, and I'm not so much part of the congregation as I myself sometimes would like to be. It depends on the event. Yeah. And I think it's part of my calling that the Spirit of God enables me to help people and to clarify their thoughts and their feelings, and to find the way that God wants to lead them. Yeah. Well, I think it's not a question of compromising. I don't agree with this idea. Of course, there are, for Christians, also like for the Jews, and I guess also for Muslims and other religious people, there are things in the Holy Scriptures that were written for a special time and a special situation, and you cannot transfer it without thinking about it into other times and to other places. But we as Christians think that the main teaching is given by Jesus, and not only by his words, but also by his life. His example is what counts. So for me, he is my hero. He's one I'm trying to follow and to do things like he did. And he gave two very wise rules that sum up all the teaching in the Bible and that do apply to all times and every place, in my opinion. One is the so-called golden rule, which I want to read to you because it's so good. It's written in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 12, and it says, "In everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. For this sums up the law and the prophets." So, do to others what you would have them do to you is a very wise rule. We have the same thought in German, but negatively formed. What you don't want to experience by others, don't do to them. But that's quite passive and defensive. Jesus wants us to think about what is good, what we would like to experience from others, and to do this to them. So you always are asked by this word of Jesus, if you are together with other people, what can you do, what is good for them? The other rule is even more important, and that's a word that Jesus says when he's discussing then about 2,000 years ago with other members of the religious community how to deal with commandments and rules and dogma. And he says, it's known also as the double commandment of love in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, verse 27. "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." So both are verses from the Old Testament, and Jesus takes them and says these are the most important sentences in the whole Bible, and this is the best guideline for every believer. Love God and love your neighbor. And both commands belong together. You cannot do one thing without the other. If you get lopsided, it's wrong. It's not like Jesus would do it. You should love God and try to do it as good as you can, but don't forget your neighbor, and you should love your neighbor, be with him, do him the best you can give him, but don't forget God. And I think this is timeless, and you can always strive for doing so, and you don't have to compromise in a way. Of course, you will not be able to do it perfectly. No one of us is perfect. We are human beings, we have weaknesses, and we fail and so on, but you can go on this way, and I think you can find a good path through all difficulties and without compromising too much. Well, when I look in society and modern developments, I think there is a good reason for the rise of fundamentalism everywhere over the world in every religion. We have Christian fundamentals, we have Muslim fundamentals, we have Hindu fundamentals, and so on. People who feel so insecure in modern times and modern society because everything and all the old values seem to be in question and seem to be no longer trustworthy, or as it is in Germany and in many Western countries, you can believe what you want to, you can pray to the God you want to, and so on. And tradition is waning, it's getting ever more unimportant. As it is, the society is changing that much, and many people, especially younger people, are feeling rather insecure. I guess it would be good to be a bit more conservative nowadays than is necessary.